So, welcome to episode 3 of Mellow Polymania. Today we have this artist who was part of Earth Girls Festival this past September, actually in this building. You can also find this artist at the Flatiron on many nights, sometimes on Thursdays, on Wednesdays mostly, or on J Timber's open mics on Mondays. This artist's name is Katie Boulevard.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you for being here today with me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Taking the time. I just wanted to take you back a little bit on like your childhood a little bit and tell me a little bit more of the soundtrack that plays within like those fondest memories.
Okay. Well, growing up, I wasn't really too into hip hop per se at all, actually. Like my parents are a little bit older than a lot of my friends' parents were. So we grew up on a lot of like soul and funk and jazz. I didn't really get to find hip hop until I was a little older. So my parents and my mom especially made sure that we were really enveloped in things that could help us get involved with different cultures, which is great, but sometimes a lot. But one of the things was piano. So I was taking classical piano all the way from being pretty little up until I left for college. So that was kind of my first like marker of anything to do with music.
Okay.
And then I picked up violin through schooling, like third grade up until I left for college as well. Once I got to college, I kind of lost track of those things. But I kind of started to identify more with music, recorded music, like actually connecting to music that was out there and finding a better process of like discovering new music and new artists. And it was like an easier pipeline for me to find new and different types of sounds. So even though I wasn't really creating as much music, and I was pretty much, if I was playing music, it was behind sheet music, really calculated. I was kind of discovering so much, and I was kind of like basically a sponge at that time. So I picked up a lot of artists that kind of inspire me now, and found hip hop, and that changed my life. And it was like a Mos Def and Little Dragon, and of course getting deeper into like Hiatus Coyote and artists that are really like funky and different and like really crazy vocalists too that aren't by the book either. They kind of break rules. That's kind of how I started to find my own sound. And once I got to college, I picked up the ukulele, and that was like me trying to write music and, you know, create from scratch. And that wasn't enough eventually. So I started to be inspired by Esperanza Spalding, and so I picked up a bass, and I wanted to try to play bass and sing, which is much harder than it looks. So that didn't stick for very long. And I picked up the guitar after that, and it was just kind of like very natural and very fun for me and very freeing for me. And it was like an explorative thing. So that's kind of like the precursor of where I am now, I would say. As for beats, that was more so like an idea. I really loved hip hop, and like I idolized hip hop. I still do. And it's just like wanting to figure out how to be involved in that and just kind of like be a juxtaposition to like being a very feminine presenting woman, but making like really heavy hitter, hard hip hop beats. You know, I really like that idea of like me becoming that person as a part of the theme of who I am, I guess. So I bought a beat machine and tried to learn it, but my bandwidth wasn't large enough. So I didn't really like stick to it until I met my band in college. A lot of my bandmates and friends, and they were all beat makers, and they kind of like introduced me to it on the ground level. I got to really see it. So that's what made me like start to actually pick it up and learn how to do it. And that's really only been about 2 or 3 years now that I've been making beats, but sort of consistently.
Yeah. And when you think about, you know, the jazz and the funk and the soul, is there anything there that you go back to, or that you feel like that's your music, that's the music that you listen to comfortably, like that it's like in your, like, is there one record that you you always go back to when, I don't know, you feel a certain way?
Yeah. I got a couple records like that. I feel like definitely going back to Sade was a huge one for me.
Nice, yeah.
I feel like it's between like Promise and I think it's called Diamond Life. Both of those albums were really big for me and made sure I had hunted them down once I finally bought a record player. And I don't know, between them and growing up, I listened to a lot of R&B in the 90s. So that was like Jill Scott and Erykah Badu, specifically like Mama's Gun and Jill Scott Words and Sounds Volume 1. Those are like two really, really big, important records for me. And like the sound of it isn't just like jazz. It isn't just soul. It isn't just R&B. It's like a mesh of all of them really, really perfectly. And like just going into the originality of it. It's like the artists, both of them are very like creative, coming from scratch with subject matters you don't necessarily hear often. And it's like, I always joke about Jill Scott always talks about food and sex, but like in a really creative way. It's like, you could say that, but if you listen to the song, it doesn't sound like that's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like painting a picture for you about this situation or feeling that she has. And it's really easy to connect to. So that's a goal that I go for myself is,
I mean, that's an art to be able to talk about something and not sound and not make it literal.
Yeah.
And to have people be like, what is he actually talking about?
Yeah, but not be too cryptic either.
That's
you
true.
know? Yeah. You don't want people to be like, okay, you know.
So you said that you were inspired by Esperanza Spalding. How long did that last?
Maybe like a month and a half, I would say. Not long. I still play bass. I still love playing bass. I feel like I like playing bass more than guitar, actually. But, you know, it wasn't my instrument, you know?
Yeah.
Not as much as it is for her, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the guitar is, if out of all, the piano, the violin, the ukulele, the guitar, the bass, your beat maker, which out of all of those, what's your baby, your favorite?
I think it would probably be guitar. I mean, I would say piano because it's easier for me to get lost in it. But at the same time, like when it comes to creating things from scratch and making ideas into reality, it's definitely guitar. So I feel like that's more so my baby for sure.
And then now you said you like to listen to Little Dragon and more of hip hop. What are like in the past? I would say, like since summer, let's say. Okay. What have you been listening to? Okay. That it's been on repeat.
There's this group called Brijan that I've been listening to a lot.
How do you spell that?
Brijean.
Bridge. Okay, got it.
It's a duo, and I'm pretty sure it's like one person's name is Brianna and the other name, and they just
nice.
Yeah. But they're a really great group. They kind of have a sound similar. I always say they're like Tame Impala and Little Dragon married. Ooh. Like very like funky and like almost like a disco type of house kind of sound sometimes. Okay. But like the vocals are very jazzy and soulful and like really like sassy sounding, Who else other than Brijan?
How did you find them? How did you find this band?
I think they were suggested like on Apple Music for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like underneath other artists that I'd already been listening to. I'm not sure how to say her name, but there's this artist, Ojarim.
Okay.
She's a vocalist. I really love her sound.
How do you know how to spell that?
I think it's Ojerime.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to say it, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I love a couple of tracks by her. It's hard to think of off the top of my head right now because I've been listening to the same things over and over again, really. But I also took a deep dive like backwards and looked into Curtis Mayfield and Eddie Kendricks a lot this summer.
Okay.
That was kind of like a deep dive, and a little Roberta Flack too, just to kind of get into artists that I had heard of, but didn't take the time to really like listen to the whole discography or more of their discography.
All right. And so, you know, besides music and, you know, you creating your beats, when you did that Earth Girls festival, like how did that happen for you? How, you know, like, did you know the right person at the right time, or?
Well, not this time, actually. A lot of the time it is, but this time it was just Viva, who I think ran everything. He has a company called Viva Got Mad Love. He just put out an ask, basically, and sent it to, DM'd it to a bunch of people, and I got a DM about it, and I was like, well, you know, why not? I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of my friends there, and there was.
Nice. So it was just like they asked you if you wanted to come, and you said yes, and that's it.
Much, yeah, pretty much. As simple as that.
Nice. And when I want to learn a little bit more about you playing for people, like when, you know, if you remember the first time you played your music or something in front of people, like how did that feel?
It's a fuzzy concept. I think the first time I really played like my music in front of people, where it was like no covers, just me, was probably my freshman year of college. Coming into A&T, I got a lot of performance practice while I was there. And people started to find out that I was playing ukulele just through friends mostly. And there was this fall like alumni event in one of the alumni centers on campus, and they just were looking for artists. And I feel like there was an ask out somewhere, actually. I feel like there was like a flyer, and I applied for it and just played a couple of songs on ukulele, and the turnout was way bigger than I expected. It was a huge banquet. I mean, it's easy to get people out for food, obviously. So it was just packed full of people, and like nobody really expected performers, I don't think. So it was already a little weird when, you know, people had to be quiet and not talk while they're eating, you know, so I had to kind of break the silence a little bit. So it was very nerve-wracking. But also kind of my earlier songs were really, really personal and like kind of sad. So I kind of feel like in those moments too, it was like basically bearing my soul in front of a bunch of people that I got to go to school with too, that I see on a regular basis. So it was super nerve-wracking for me, but you know, the actual performance itself was pretty good. You know, it wasn't too bad. I didn't like slip up or forget any words or, you know, mess up a chord or anything. Like the performance itself was really good. So I think it's something about having to work past those nerves that makes it easier for me to just zone out and get lost in what I'm doing. But that's kind of how that went. It was pretty, I'd say it was a successful show.
I bet. I mean, if also people are eating, they're happy, they're not all grumpy. Yeah. You know, there's music while you're eating.
Exactly. Nobody's like, get off the stage, I'm trying to eat. You know, so it was fine.
And when you say that you felt this way about playing your songs that were kind of sad, did you, like for the future, like did you take that into consideration for playing in the future your songs, or did you change anything about it? Or okay.
Yeah, I definitely did. It was something that I kind of started to recognize was a habit, that it was easier for me to write about things that were heavier for me and harder for me to deal with than it was to just write when I was happy. And then it was almost like writing happy songs was just like, it became like very like, I don't know, happy-go-lucky, frolic in the flowers type of thing. And it's like, it should be a little bit more weight to it than that, you know? So trying to figure out how to balance that was a challenge after the fact. And it got to a point where I started to perform more often, but it felt like that's all I had to perform was sad songs. So it was just a little challenge. But
how is the process of songwriting for you? How does a song become a song for you, lyrics wise?
It could be like a couple of ways. So like one way could be I'm just at work you know, and a brain fart comes up or an idea comes up, and I just like print out an extra piece of receipt paper and write a couple of lines on it, you know, and then throw that in my pocket, and it becomes a song later that day. Or other situations where I'll just have a collection of really random thoughts in my notepad on my phone, and I'm making a beat later, and they just kind of marry each other. Like as I'm halfway through the beat, I think about it like, okay, this song would go well with this.
Yeah.
Other times it's completely from scratch, where it's like I kind of want to sit down and write a song like right now, and I'm in this mind state. So it'll be a situation a lot of the time where I start with what I'm trying to accomplish, basically, like what I'm trying to make the person feel. Okay. Especially now in the sense of trying to write happier music that just comes from the sky.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, okay, let me think of how I can write a song that is about partying and having a good time. That doesn't sound like, hey, come party and have a good time.
Exactly.
So, you know, I think it's like, okay, what feeling am I trying to convey? What story am I trying to tell? You know, in this situation, how can I make it something that people are connected to, or makes them laugh a little bit, or, you know, makes them think about something a little bit. So taking that subject and then trying to create a sound from it. That's usually easier for me than like just starting off with the lyrics. But yeah, like try to create a sound that like connects to that feeling. And then the hook is like super important. So starting with the hook, like what is this about generally? And then I can kind of do the rest of the track around that most of the time.
Okay, so you said kind of the first, the beat kind of goes first, and then the lyrics, and you start thinking about what you're trying to convey. Yeah. And did you ever learn, or like, do you ever like go online and like how to write a song, or just like, or is it just all your inspiration? Kind
of. I mean, I think it's definitely like coming from listening to people that I liked, you know, and finding people that I felt like, you know, I wish I made this song, you know, and like collecting that as a template or a mood board in my brain. So it's not necessarily Googling it, but like looking at it like this is the blueprint that people before me have put down that I find myself connected to. And maybe I can make something that makes other people feel similar to that, you know, without biting, of course. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't think I ever got the chance to lay it out like that. I wish I could have, because maybe it would be a little bit more concise. But, you know, I started writing poetry and stuff when I was younger, and just connecting it to the music wasn't terribly hard, but it was just trying to figure out how to make that sound like me, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So you have had a lot of creative outlets since you were young. So I think that has helped you out a lot in not being a task, and it comes out easily. And I know this is going back to what you were saying about your band in college. How did you meet these people? Was it a music? Like, did you all have a class together, or?
You know, I wish it could have been something as cool as everybody having a class together. Well, we were all individually friends, like in our own collectives. Like everybody knew each other from pipeline down the way, basically. Okay. So there was like 5 of us in total, but like 4 of us out in the forefront. I would love to just shout them out here. Why not? But yeah, so my friend Dre, who was on the drums, he's from Virginia originally, and I would just see him around campus all the time. He was just a generally friendly dude, and he knew everybody. He was always like super popular. So it was like, if I didn't know him, I was going to end up knowing him eventually. Yeah. But I would just see him around campus, and he'd always wave at me, and I'd always wave back. It was just as simple as that. We never really spoke to each other, but it was just like, hey, what's up? Hey, casually. Not everybody waves, but he always did. And then Devin, who's Deviant Sounds, you've probably seen him before. And Dre's stage name is Self Dele. Sorry, Dre, if I outed you. But I mean, you know, it's anyway, okay. It's fine. They'll be all right. So Devin, or Deviant Sounds, I met Devin way a while before I met everybody else. We had a lot of mutual friends in college. So he was actually the first person that recorded me in the studio.
Oh,
He was one of my friends who had a studio set up in his dorm room, and not a lot of people had that around that time. So basically, he just brought me over there and for a studio session, and it just happened to be with Devin. Lo and behold, I can't help but say it like this because he's such a bully. So I just want to bully him so bad. Anyway, so after Devin, Kaylin is our bassist. Kaylin is from Kansas City, and he's been really close friends with Dre for years. And it was funny because Kaylin lived a floor above me in the same dorm as me in freshman year. So it was like a lot of like interwoven connections that just didn't come together until the time was right, I guess. We didn't officially like meet each other until I guess Devin and Dre wanted to put together a collective of beat makers. And I guess one or both of them just kind of generally invited people, like not necessarily like beat makers in particular, just like people that they knew were involved in music somehow. So Devin invited me. Dre invited Kaylin. My friend Sean was there as well. And Sean was the fifth of the collective. So Sean was actually been friends of mine for years. He's from Raleigh with me as well. We went to the same middle school together and everything. And we ended up both going to A&T and having a lot of mutual friends that way. So we were already friends over the years. And Sean helped us with a lot of back-end mixing and mastering. And he would also kind of chime in on the synths here and there. Nice, and he also played sax. So he would come in on sax every once in a while. So it was like the five of us pretty much. We also had a friend, Shannon, that was in this music class with everybody, and Shannon played guitar too. So it was all of us together just having jam sessions all the time till 3 a.m., not doing any schoolwork, just messing around for a whole semester until we probably were like, I think we should do something with this, like we were recording music and it sounded pretty great, We called ourselves Earth Tones, and Earth Tones was taking everybody everywhere. So we called it Earth Tones 365 as the full title.
Nice.
And we just kind of would jam all the time and just be at Dre's house and play for hours. And getting shows was kind of like a slow and gradual thing. People started to come by the house. They would hear us and like ask us to perform. We performed in the Campus Green was where we all stayed in this apartment complex, and we would play in Dre's apartment. So the apartment complex started to know about us because they would hear it. And they were like, you should play at the office sometimes.
Well, that's
and,
nice.
I was like, they could have totally kicked us out.
Exactly.
But, so played at the office a couple of times. We played at A&T every once in a while. We played at Artist Block and Club Orion and just around places. And it was always word of mouth with us. But it was really great. We had a good, 1.5, 2 year run as a band for a little while, and it was really cool. We made some really great music, and we put out an album called Pangea a couple years back. It's still on just on Bandcamp and SoundCloud, but it's out there. That was the main thing with the band. We also had like another collective on the side of beat makers that we called Metronome. That was like the band members, but a couple of additional people, and we all just played beat shows specifically, and we pretty much always did them at Common Grounds.
Oh, Common Grounds, nice.
We would do them once a month. Metronome beat shows at Common Grounds. I would make the flyers. It was like, it was a cool little sweet spot for about a year and some change too. Yeah.
And what happened that it's no longer a thing?
Not so much. I think we've kind of transferred over it until it looking more like a collective with a label versus it being a performance collective, if you know what I mean. Okay. Well, what happened was a lot of us weren't from here originally. So when people graduated from college, it was like, what now? So Dre got a really nice job offer in Delaware. That's where he is. And, Kaylin's back in Kansas City, and me and Devin are still here, and Sean is in Chicago. So everybody's kind of in different places now. Gotcha. So we can't really perform together as much, but we still make music and we still collab. So I think we're kind of transferring that into a different type of interface where instead of performance, it's releasing, and we release under the same title, and we still collectively work, but you know. Yeah.
And that can be found on Bandcamp.
Yes, Bandcamp and SoundCloud.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that's the beauty of technology.
Oh, yeah.
And that even though you are all in different places, you can still collaborate and also at the same time do your own thing. Because you, besides playing beats, do you also do anything else like on the side? I mean, I know you do those flyers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do you do anything else? Like I've seen some of your skating videos.
Oh yeah. I definitely roller skate. I love roller skating, but I wouldn't put it in my resume. You know, I'm mainly a graphic designer. That's what I went to school for when I went to A&T.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of one of my day jobs of multiple. But I work for a company downtown called Tiger Moth Creative. It's a marketing firm, and underneath the head designer, I just do layout and flyers and poster work for like GCS and Cone Denim or Cone Health, a lot of different companies throughout the city.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a cool little gig. Outside of that, I freelance for myself, and I'll do flyers and logos and different types of layout for other people. Just recently done some video work with the Greensboro Justice Coalition, with helps to try to find some resolve for the Marcus Dion Smith case. You know, I just put together a video with some footage of the whole situation. It was very heavy, but very necessary. So I just do work whenever I'm needed, essentially, wherever. I kind of try to make as many connections as possible. I wear a lot of hats, so a lot of people don't really know what all I do. But underneath the visual aspect, I do a lot of video editing, animation, illustration, and layout.
Well, I guess now they do.
Now they do. Here's the resume. Yeah.
Nice. And then in the terms of, I mean, for, you know, like you just said, you wear a lot of hats. What is the future looking like for you in terms of music, your job? Like, where do you see yourself in, 2022?
That's very up in the air. I'm very optimistic to what I can pull together. Like my goal really mainly is to be as independent as possible. So I'm hoping that I can kind of still work jobs through Tiger Moth. I only work for them like 10 hours a week, and it's more of an assistant thing. But when it comes to like music and design, I really want to create a space for myself where I'm assisting people and working with people, more so collabing with people where it comes to like even design wise. It's like working on album covers and different things with artists is an ideal for me. I'd love to get to the point where I'm consistently working on that enough to where that's one of my kind of gigs, as well as like design wise. I like to create things from scratch. I have my own personal designs that I like to do. So I'd love to do like merch and things for myself under Katie Boulevard, or just kind of connecting with people on a more ground level way of things. Everything is so digital for me right now. And I would really love to like get my hands dirty and be in front of people a little bit more. And performing more actively has been a challenge for me, but I've been definitely doing it this past like 2 or 3 months. I've been performing a lot. So I'm hoping to kind of do that more consistently and get some more paid gigs. If anybody wants to pay me, But yeah, like definitely kind of getting more consistent with something that's like a solid ground for me. I have more consistency in my scheduling and things. So I can move according to my own map, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what does you say you want to play more shows, but how does that happen? Like, how do you make that happen? Do you just talk to your friends, or do you, like, where would you perform? I guess, like, that's my question.
Well, it's definitely like connections. Yeah, like it's kind of like trying to meet as many people as possible. And when I am at the performances, if I'm not performing, like I should just talk to the person that's running the venue or the person that's like running this event at the moment. If I can track them down, you can usually tell because they're sweating a lot, and you can just kind of go up to them and introduce yourself, and say, I'm an artist. I don't know what you guys have going on here, but I'd love to be a part of it, basically.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's no matter what size of the show, a lot of the time people, especially here in North Carolina, I guess, people are pretty open-minded. If you go up and are willing to put yourself out there like that, they're going to be at least willing to hear what your music sounds like.
Yeah.
So the next step is creating concise music that, you can click a button and listen to something that sounds really well put together and well mixed, et cetera, et cetera. But that's really how most of my shows have gotten put together now, or larger scale shows. It's been either already having the connection and filling a need, I guess, in the sense of we need an artist. Let me think of who I can think of off the top of my head. That girl came up to me last week. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of putting yourself in the places. Going to as many shows as physically possible, whether or not I'm performing or not. But a lot of that is just supporting my friends and getting to know the people in the spaces. Everybody kind of knows everybody here.
I mean, it happens usually with small towns. I mean, I wouldn't say it's small, but it is.
Yeah.
People do know, and I feel like a lot of people in the triad and the triangle. There you go. Like the triad and the triangle.
And the Durham Research Triangle. Yes.
So, I mean, I feel like a lot of you also know people there. You're from Raleigh and
a little bit of Charlotte. Yeah.
Okay. And all right. So, is there anything new that's coming out with Katie Boulevard, like music wise, that you have planned? You can talk about a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I've been working on the album for way too long now. So I feel like I've kind of made the executive decision to kind of put a hold on the album and work on some beat tapes, because I've been making a lot of beats recently, and that's been a really easy process for me. It's coming a little bit more natural. So telling myself that I'm probably going to release 2 beat tapes by the end of the year, or at least by January.
Okay.
One of them is planned to be romantically themed. Like, I'm thinking it's going to be like a for you and yours type of thing.
Gotcha. Right in time for
Valentine's Day. Yes. As kitschy as possible, but without being too corny, know. Performance wise too, this week coming up, I'm performing on Wednesday along with a couple other of my beat making friends at Flatiron for In the Beat of the Nights show. And then also this Saturday, I will be playing at Southeastern Sika. I'll be playing at Sika Southeastern. Not good with antonyms, or acronyms. Either way.
Is this here in Greensboro?
It's in Winston.
Winston, okay.
Yes. It's I'm pretty sure it's the Southeastern Museum of Contemporary Art, something along those lines. But it's a museum out in Winston-Salem, and they're doing a lakeside performance series that they're just starting to kick off, and they just reached out to me randomly and asked me to perform. So I'll be playing there Saturday at 6:30.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
For about almost an hour.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Nice. So I just wanted to wrap this up a little bit. And if you had to choose one record, I know this might be a little challenging, but one record that you can listen to until the end of time. Forever. It's like you're in Lost.
Yeah.
And somehow you just got the one record, and
that's actually not hard for me.
Cool.
It's definitely Black on Both Sides, Mos Def. It's definitely hands down my favorite album. I have a tattoo to prove it.
Nice.
It's just very all encompassing about like a journey to yourself, and connecting to Black culture, connecting to love, connecting to family, connecting to society, talking about pretty much every aspect of it, but also sonically, having a lot of heavy hitting hardcore beats, but at the same time having a lot of jazz that's really smooth and beautiful to listen to, and then having a little rock elements in there every once in a while. It's like he touches on a lot of different things. And I also just really love Mos Def. So I'm a little biased. Just a little biased.
But that's the one.
Yes, that's
Nice.
definitely the one, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. Thanks a
course.
lot. And I'll see you around.
See you soon.
See you soon.